start, I would like to talk about a little bit about my company, Scholar IT Solutions. It's an IT solutions provider, a group of professionals with a lot of technical and domain expertise, and the team is robust enough to handle projects of any scale now. It's one of the best company in US, and if you want to get to know more about the company, the services they provide and everything, you can follow it on social media like Facebook page, LinkedIn, everywhere. There's also an Instagram account, you can follow us. Okay, so a little bit about myself. I'm a consultant. I do both freelance and contract work. And recently I've been doing a lot of business development and digital transformation for a lot of modern companies, from startups to large scale companies. And in my free time, I like to do mentorship and advice to people who require guidance. So if you want anything like that, you can contact me. Okay, so let's get to the main part here, which is about the whole interview process and how you can get ready to be like a part of the corporate world. So a little bit about the corporate world before we start. So why do we have to organize everything into a corporate scenario? That is mainly because everybody have different personalities and different ways of communication and different ways of doing things. And if everybody is let loose without any kind of rules or regulations or anything like that, people will start doing whatever they want themselves. So that is why we use corporate as a way to organize all these things, a set of rules that everybody can follow, so as to maximize productivity. I'm saying all that because you really have to comply to the rules, because you breaking the rules or something like that just makes the system worse, productivity less, and everything like that. So any kind of rule or something like that, it's always best to follow it. And there's an old saying like, when in Rome, be Roman. And then that goes here as well. When you're in corporate, be corporate. And if you are attending this interview, this webinar, you are mostly looking forward to make your leap into the corporate world. And you need to know much about this world as possible before you go in there, so you are ready to face it. Okay, so what are the essential skills of a professional? So what differentiates between amateur and a professional? Amateur is a person who is has no experience, who is just new to the field, and most people or anybody would not like to work with an amateur. Why? Because they are not reliable. They are new, they're inexperienced, you have to constantly guide them, and in general, people like to work with people who are professionals. And there is a lot of things, like people sometimes come and ask me hey, you want me to be a professional all of a sudden? I can only become a professional only after I work for a few months or a few years or something like that. If you are trying to do something like that, you are wasting a lot of time in your life. If you notice, everybody has limited time in their life for everything. And in school or college or any kind of situation, you might have had unlimited time to do a lot of things. You might have time for playing games, watching movies, or anything like that. But once you get into the work environment, time is literally not there at all. So when you are entering into a company, you want to be a professional. Starting, you don't have to wait for 3 or 4 months or even years before you can start becoming a professional. A professional is a person who takes his job or anything very seriously. And people who are in schools or colleges or something, I've seen a lot of people. There's only few people who take this seriously. Other people, they just fool around, they play and everything. And that's not a bad thing. You have to enjoy life as well. But at the same time, you have to take certain things seriously. And seriously doesn't mean that you have to be with a blank face or keep on running or something like that. Taking something seriously, as in any tasks or anything you have given, you have to do it properly. So that is a professional. Amateur doesn't do that. He just snoops around. He doesn't prepare. He doesn't do anything like that. He always waits for somebody else and comes to say that do this or do that or something. Or he waits for the superior to come and say hey, do this or do that. He doesn't even go and ask. A professional is somebody who doesn't like wasting time. So if he's wasting time or something, he quickly goes and tries to put the time to best use. And there is always time for doing other things. like, leisure, rest and everything like that. You don't have to waste your professional time. So when you go into the corporate world, you have to go in as a professional. So there are some skills which are essential to become a professional, and you really need to know this. And although this is about the whole communication skills and everything, so I'm going to elaborate about the whole communication skills. But public speaking, flexibility, teamwork, communication, time management, leadership, personal skills, everything is important. Public speaking, you need to be able to present yourself. Public speaking doesn't mean that you're speaking in front of a large audience or like a huge crowd or something. Talking in front of other people, like let's just say your colleagues or people who are working with you, everything like that, that is also public speaking. And flexibility. So when you're working or something like that, you need to be flexible with the any kind of things you're given. You can't say like, I don't know, I don't do this or something like that. You have to somehow get the things done. So that is flexibility. Teamwork, you have to be a part of a team, because you shouldn't go after individual goals or something like that. So everybody knows about teamwork. It's in sports, it's in there, it's in everywhere. Communication, time management, as I said, we don't have time at all. If you start like, working or doing anything, the moment you get inside like 9 o'clock morning and you check in, and the next thing you'll be like noticing is like you checking out at 5, and you would not know where your time went. Because consistently there's a lot of things coming up one after the other, and you won't have any time at all. And this is why you have to be a professional. You shouldn't waste the time of work, because like, you're having limited time and you can't stay in the office forever. Doing overtime or everything like that just takes a physical and mental toll on you on a longer run. So you have to efficiently manage the time which you're given. And to do that, you need to be a professional. You shouldn't waste time. You shouldn't fool around. You should take breaks when you're required and do your work properly. And you have to take this whole thing seriously, not something like, hey, I'm just part of this company. This is going to give me money whether I like it or not. If you have that kind of attitude when you go inside, it shows. Like if you don't like come on the proper time, or if you don't come on properly dressed, or if you don't properly present yourself, or if you're like, slacking off or anything like that, it shows. And that will not just show when you're inside the company, even before, like in the interview, the HR people who are interviewing are like, they know a lot of people, they've seen a lot of people, and they'll immediately find out, oh, this guy, he's one of those guys who is like, going to slack off and not do work at all. Why should I hire him? He's going to just waste my time. Or he's one of those guys who can't talk properly. If he can't talk properly, then there's no point of like, keeping him in the company. Somebody who is new, can you mute yourself? Okay, thank you. Yeah, so that is how these people think. And HR like analyzes every single thing what you do. So these are the essential skills you need to like, start building up if you want to like, get into the corporate world as a professional. Okay, coming back to the main topic, communication skills. So why are communication skills important? So the first time a friend of mine went into a corporate world, he told me one thing when he came back. He said like, if you know how to talk, you are going places. And if you don't know how to talk, you are not going anywhere. You're going to be sitting in that desk for the rest of your life. And that is 100% no, 1000% true. Mainly because people think that, and school, college level, the kind of skills you take, like any kind of skills like software skills or other skills, writing skills or all these things, they are like, the reason why these companies hire them, or the companies, these are the things required for a person to grow in his career. But if you notice, before, when like for example the job of an Android developer, like 15 years ago when I used to like look for the people to like develop Android apps and everything, I didn't find people at all. But now look at it, everybody's an Android developer these days, even kids. So the thing is, these kind of skills can be easily acquired, because there is like so much things on the internet to like learn all these skills and everything, and almost everybody take classes, this, that or something. So if you are going for a job as an Android developer, and there is like 10 other people coming for the same job, all of them are going to have identical skills. They know how to do all these things and everything. So what sets them apart? So the HR is given like he wants to hire 2 people, and there are 10 people. All of them have finished a certified Android developer. So how will he choose? Because then he has to see other skills, like how they're presenting themselves. Do they have a portfolio? Do they have? So he has to filter it based on that. And beyond that, attitude, everything like that, verbal communication, everything has to be like seen by the HR person, because he has only 2 spots left and he has to choose from 10 people. But I'm actually like not playing that act. Sometimes the HR person has to hire only 4 people, but the actual case is he's actually interviewing 40 or 50 people. That's the kind of case here. Only 10% of the people get hired. So if you really want to like have some skills, you have to show it. And why is communication skills important here? Because 10 Android developers, 2 of them have to be hired. So a person who is hiring for an interview doesn't know about his technical skills. So he just says like, oh, he's an Android developer, fine, okay. So what else do you have? Can you communicate well? Or like, why should I hire you? They actually ask questions like that directly, like, hey, why should I hire you? Because everybody else has the same qualifications. What sets you apart? So when you are facing questions like that, you need to have something to show. Communication skills are very important, and there are certain things you can show in an interview. Like you can't actually sit and code an Android app or show your coding skills in an interview, but you can impress people with your communication skills. If you're communicating with confidence, if you're communicating with an ability that you done research properly and you're doing everything properly or something, then he will know. It's easy to like assess a person based on a communication skills because you can show it right then and there. And just think about how much harder it is to showcase your technical skills. It takes 3 months to develop an Android app or even get started doing that. You can't really showcase that. And even if you do come up with a portfolio or some kind of mini project which you've done in college, these days everybody does that. So yeah, communication skills are incredibly important. And 1 second. Yeah. So before we go into like in depth about bit by bit about communication skills, there is one small thing which most people don't talk, and I would like to talk about it for a moment. Although this is not that important for your interview or something like that, it does make a difference. So men and women are different in the way they communicate, in the way they do everything like that. So when, let's just say you're the person who is tasked with the interview or a person who's sitting here, men most of the time tend to be more logical and women tend to be more emotional. So when you approach people, you always have to be different. And we are naturally different. We are like, with girls we talk differently and with guys we talk differently or something like that. But as far as the corporate world is concerned, you should probably have some kind of middle thing between that. You should talk to them almost equally. You should never try to give them importance, because when you try to give importance to one person or the one other gender or something like that, they know it. Like for example, if you're being nice because the HR is a woman, or if you're not if you're trying being nice because the HR is a guy or something like that, it shows. They know. HR people notice every single thing that you're trying to butter them up, or that you're trying to doing all these things, and every single thing they know, because they do this for a living. They don't meet just you. They meet every single person like you, and they interviewing people or managing people is kind of their job. So they're meeting endless amount of people. Never try to trick them into anything, like taking advantage of them or doing anything like that or something like that. It will never end well. Even if that gets you a job, it will never end well. Okay, so elaborating on the communication skills in depth. So what are the 4 communication skills? So thinking. Why is thinking in the list and why is it in the top? Yes, it's mainly important because whatever you communicate is mostly what you think. At that point or something, somebody asks you a question, your brain recalls something. And if your brain doesn't have that information, you start blinking. So the thing is, if you're thinking, that's different. And If you're not, you're blinking like, oh my God, I don't know what that means or something. But instead you could say like, I am not aware of that. In blinking or anything like that shows like, you're not prepared enough, or if you're not prepared for this interview or anything like that. Because like instead you could say like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not aware of that. You could apologize. And whatever your face is the index of the mind. So whatever you're thinking at that point, or whatever you're having at that point, or whatever you're focusing on that point, everything is written on your face. And it can be read by the HR person, because he's trained in psychology to like, read the face expressions, your body language, everything. So it should be really important that you keep a blank mind when you go there, a confident face and everything. And, you have to like look at what the person is asking, or what this current context is. And only then you should start, responding. Instead, some people, I've seen that they have like 1,000 thoughts in their mind. Like when they go into an interview, it's like, will I get the job? Will I get not? Oh, this company is good. This pays well. This is good for career. All those kind of thoughts clog their mind. And you think people won't be able to see it? It will. It doesn't take a HR to see it. And like a typical person, like your friend or anybody crossing you, can actually see that you're confused, you're chaotic, or anything like that. It's that obviously written on your face. Whenever you panic or you think too much, you're overthinking, you're like in deep thought, everything is written on your mind. And you don't know that, because the only time you look inside a mirror or anything is just to comb your hair or groom yourself. Other than that, you're not looking at your face. So you don't know what kind of expression your face gives when you have different kind of thoughts in your mind. So it is actually very good to like not focus on anything, focus on the interview, wait for a response, don't think about anything, try to calm down and relax. And always have this state of mind is like, you need to respond only when somebody is asking you something or doing anything. You shouldn't keep on responding or doing something without them doing anything like that. So you need, like, for example, like some people, they stare at people like wanting a response or wanting something or doing something. All those kind of things, create the fact that you're trying hard or trying to do something. So you need to have a steady composure. I am going to like sit and just listen, wait patiently. And anytime you're sitting inside the HR or something, remember that he is also a normal person like you, except that he's trained to be a HR and you are not. And a lot of people have seen that they think that the HR is superior, mainly because he's giving the job. He's the one who decides your fate, if you're joining the company or not. So they have this kind of thing like, oh my God, I have to be. Whenever you think about somebody as your superior, your body language automatically bows down. And if they see that, they'll think that you're not good enough. So you should treat them like, yeah, that person is an interviewer. I am the person who is being interviewed. That's all you should be in your mind. Anything else in your mind shows in you. And the next part, listening. Listening is one of the most essential skills, and also one of the least skills in any kind of people. People love to talk about their interests, about themselves, about everything. And the majority of the people do not tend to be listeners. Of course, there are introverts and everything like that, but yeah, in general, where the people in a social situation or something, you can't really find that much introverts. So in that kind of world or anything like that, you have to have listening skills. You might be used to talking to hours and hours on the phone with your friends, chatting, chit chat, texting, everything like that. But you need to develop a little bit of listening skills, because like, most people don't really absorb what the other person is saying. What they do is they simply like randomly respond or nod their heads or pretend to listen, and they never absorb anything. And you can't go like that into this place, because if you're not listening to what the other person is saying in an interview, you're going to you don't know how to respond. He might be asking something else and you might be responding something else. So listen very carefully whenever a person is talking in general, or whenever a person is like talking interview or anything like that. It's always good to have listening skills. First listen, think a little bit, not too much, and respond. So that comes to the next part, speaking. When you're speaking, never explain things in detail. Be as crisp as possible. Like whenever a question is come to you, and you say like it as like crisp as way as possible, because nobody has the time to listen to all your stories. If you're a person who sits and talks about your day for 4 hours, 5 hours per day or something, you can't really survive here because you don't have that time. Nobody has time for you. The interviewer has like what, 5 minutes to interview you, and he wants every kind of information about you or anything that in 5 minutes. You can't sit and talk like, I did my schooling in this place, I did my schooling in that place or that place, I scored this much, I scored that much. And if you talk like that, you will be just saying some trivial information which is already there in your resume. You won't be saying something which sets you apart, because you could just say like, I did my schooling here, I did my college here, in a single letter. Instead you say like, I did my schooling in this thing, I scored this much. It takes a lot of time and it makes the other person lose interest. So you know that everybody like talks like this or something, but you know it's pretty obvious that you're coming to the interview because you're qualified, you finished schooling and college and everything like that. Unless you're asked like that or something like that, you should not talk like that. Majority of the interview cases, they'll ask only one question: tell me about yourself. And if your school and college information is all that you have about yourself, you should be really thinking about what you are as a person before attend an interview like that. And I always have this habit of saving the most important for the last thing we discussed, and like that, non-verbal communication. The non-verbal communication is, in a nutshell, your facial expressions and body language. So this is how people communicate the most. The verbal communication, people are talking, nobody's listening or anything like that. Non-verbal communication, everybody can notice that. Like if a person's paying attention to you, they're definitely going to notice all these non-verbal signals. The way you sit, the way you are like, walking, the way you're posed, the posture, everything tells about yourself. If you are a person who is sitting there and you let's just say there is some kind of restless behavior, you're not able to sit down in a single place, and you're constantly moving your legs and you're moving your arms in a different way or doing something like that, it shows that you're a restless person with no patience. And that is an instant reject, because a person who's like restless or something like that doesn't have the calm and composure like required for a person to work in the corporate world. So, and a lot of people have this habit from school and college. Yeah, they sit and any kind of posture they wish, even in college and everything. You can't be like that, because the way you sit or anything like that shows a lot of people. And as long as you have to, about the posture itself, you have to sit straight, maybe a little bit slanted or something like that. Sit straight and always be comfortable in the way you sit. Don't sit like you're erectly standing like a lamppost or something. Just be more comfortable and sit like that, and never be restless. If you're a person who's restless or something like that, please try to calm down using something like meditation or some kind of methods before you actually go in and do stuff. And face as well, like I already told a little bit about face in thinking. And if you notice, all these kind of circles, they intersect against each other. So non-verbal also includes the thinking part and how your face responds. So I already covered that, so I'm not going to repeat that. So yeah, non-verbal also includes that. And it's important to be very confident. Overconfidence is going to get you into trouble. Like sometimes I ask a person to get really confident. He goes and sits there and he actually acts as if he owns the company. I've seen like two people in common. Either they act as if they own the company and they get rejected, or they act as if they are a slave to the company and they get rejected. Both of them are not true. You don't own the company, it's not yours. And you are not their slave either. You're an employee there. You have rules, you have regulations which support you as well, not just the company. It's some kind of mutual agreement. So employee is not a slave or not the owner of the company. You have like a status in the middle. So think like that. I'm going to be an employee of that company. Think only like that. Don't think like I'm going to serve the company or I own the company. It's like my company. I'll do whatever I want or something like that, because it's not. Yes. So the next part, emotional intelligence. This is one of the things which is like, taught a lot in these days. And I would like to talk about it in a little bit more detail than it's required. Emotional intelligence or anything like that, it simply means like, taking into concern about the other person before you talk or respond or doing anything like that. For instance, a simple example would be like, let's just say the HR is inside the room and he asked you to sit down, but he's not giving you his attention. He's like, like in his laptop, or he's like, fiddling with his phone or something like that. At that point, you should not pester him, because he is not giving you his attention. You shouldn't ask for it forcibly. You have to wait for your turn. So what you do is, I've seen certain people, like, it will make the other person angry when you don't consider their point of view or their situation or anything like that. And most people, like, they have this kind of thing, like they don't actually ask a HR to like, hey, are you like, come and take the interview, it's getting late or something. But they keep on staring at the HR, like constantly looking at him, and he feels uncomfortable. If somebody's staring at you, you're definitely going to know that they're staring at you. So when he's fiddling with his phone or computer or something like that, it means that he's doing something. So at that point, you should be a little bit more understanding. Okay, he has some kind of immediate response to be given to his company, or somebody's calling him. He might be like, responding to his superiors, or he might be responding to this emergency in the family or some kind of thing, or even some kind of updates to a friend or something like that. You should understand his situation, give him his space, and not stare at him. So you can just do something else, look somewhere else, or you can just, simply wait for your turn instead of, staring at him or like forcing him into like, doing his job. He is going to do it. So that is a basic example of how you have some kind of emotional intelligence, considering what the other person is like, feeling or doing at one point. So this is very important. This will, this along with communicate you like so far in like corporate world, mainly because when a person is coming, the HR, like I told you, he is not God, or he's not some superior person or something. He's a person like you. He has a family. He has to travel to work. He has to earn money. Or something. I'm not going to take the interview or something, because yeah, people are waiting. And in corporate, if you give a commitment and you don't follow up, it's taken as like, a bad kind of response. Like, let's just say I agreed to conduct this meeting at 9 o'clock today, and I was here at 8. I was here from 8:30. But let's just say that I don't come here. Let's just say that I was in a bad mood, or I was having some sickness, which is not that bad, but still I can't just, cancel a meeting, because I already given a commitment to a lot of people who want to like, learn all these things. And canceling on that would like, do a lot of different things, like ruin your reputation, and people would like, be disappointed, and they would have a lot of negative things to say about you. And this is the same kind of situation for everybody. He's not that different from you. So you should have some kind of empathy, saying like, okay, he has a bad day, I shouldn't give him like too much thing. And there are many cases where I've seen people with emotional intelligence always get a better half of life, mainly because they consider other people's emotions. And that kind of skills is very, very low in real life. People don't care about others. You don't have to care about another person so much that, you have to like, give your contribution or life to them. Little things matter. Like if he's having a hard time or something like that, you giving him some space, you giving him some time to like, refill or something, that goes a long way, because he thinks that, oh, he's a good guy, he's a nice guy. Immediately your image in his mind goes up. Let's just say, like, I already told you, Everybody has the same qualification. If somebody is going to apply for a job as an Android developer, all of them have the same qualifications. So these are the things that can set you apart. This guy cares about other people. This guy is, more understanding. He understands the situation. He is more flexible to work with. That's the kind of thing that sets you apart. And self-awareness. This is something which nobody has. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I could say nobody that because very few people are aware of themselves. And it takes a lot of time for a person to be self-aware. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they are. They don't know what they're good at. For example, a person could be like, have this habit of fidgeting with his pen, like, constantly going tuck, 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 tuck with his pen. And he won't know it. He would be doing it without his, knowledge. Only other people know it because they sit and complain that how he's constantly making noise. There are let's just say there's a person sitting in a bench near you and he's constantly shaking his legs, which is shaking the entire bench. He doesn't know it because he's taking the same vibration as the bench, but the other people are not. Everybody in the bench is annoyed. So you should be knowing a lot about yourself and how you affect others. You can't have habits which get into other people's privacy or get into other people's life interrupting or something like that. You can't, when you're sitting in some kind of place, I've seen certain people, they stretch their legs, this, that, like that, without, considering other people are also there. And they, hit them by mistake or, sometimes trip them over or do all those things because these people have no self-awareness. They are not aware of what they're doing. This is almost everybody. Only few people who are experienced, who are gotten into a lot of trouble and learned the hard way is knows that they are actually how their actions or their kind of ways of life is affecting other people. If you have this kind of annoying habits or something like that, please drop it because you are not going to notice it at all. Everybody else is going to notice, and that will be your label. If you're a person who has this annoying habit or doing something like that, everybody is going to look at you for that annoying habit, not for the talent or any kind of skills you might have. So always do not have any kind of annoying habits like that. It's easy to stop. You can slowly stop it. You can't stop it instantly. Of course, it's been a part of you for a long time, but it has to slowly stop. And self-regulation. Self-regulation is something like a set of rules which you put on yourself. When you go to any place, as a part of a country, you have certain rules and regulations to be followed, which is enforced by law and everything like that. And as a part of a corporate world, they have their own kind of rules. Apart from the general kind of rules everybody has to follow, each and every company has its own rules. And why is somebody there are a lot of people who ask me in the past questions there is so many rules to be followed already. Why should I have more rules for myself to be followed? Mainly because if you don't follow a set of patterns or something, people will find you unpredictable. If you don't, you could be a person who is living on your terms without a timetable or something like that. Then other people won't know what you are. That is the thing. You might be comfortable doing things in a random way, or you might be comfortable doing things in without any kind of structure or anything like that. But other people will find it hard to connect to you or talk to you or do something. For example, let's just say that you have lunch break half an hour and you don't delay that at all. If you keep on following that habit, everybody will know that at 1 o'clock sharp he's going to be here. At 5 o'clock sharp he's going to be there. He's going to finish the job at the right moment. He's going to do all these things. So these kind of self-discipline or anything like that builds up character. When you are like that or something like that, everything reflects on your personality, the way you talk. A person who's a professional is always calm and composed. Amateurs, they don't know what to talk. They don't know how to respond. They don't know how to do all these things. And professionals are not like that. And that's what I said. You don't have to become going into a company, work for 3-4 years to become a professional. You have to have this kind of habits. Even a 5-year-old kid or 10-year-old kid can be a professional if he has some kind of ethics on how to do things. If he's playing and he's playing properly and he's playing with the kind of thing which is constructive or something, a 5-year-old kid can be called a professional. because he's doing things properly. He's not doing something chaotic, or he's not doing something like, without any kind of regulation or something like that. So that is very important. When you go inside, you have to quickly assess the situation and, find out like, yeah, how I'm going to do all these things, how I'm going to like, be as a professional or something like that. You should quickly start doing that instead of, wasting time. Like, I'll figure it out tomorrow. Procrastination. I'll figure it out tomorrow. I'll figure it out tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow or something. And there's this saying that tomorrow never comes. Yeah, it doesn't. Anybody who says tomorrow or tomorrow or tomorrow or something, it never ever comes. And then you will just be at the end of your life with nothing. And there's only one thing I didn't talk here. I think it's motivation. Empathy is like, having care for other people. Okay, so there's only one thing I didn't talk about in this slide, so which is motivation. So what is like the role of motivation here? If you don't have the drive to grow in life, you're going to like, seem like a person who's stagnant with no kind of, fire inside themselves, some kind of drive which makes him go. You don't have to start your own company, but you could have professional growth in your own career as a artist or a programmer or like designer or something like that. You want to be somebody. You should have that kind of mindset. I want to have these kind of goals. Even personal goals are important. I want to go to this, spend time with this. I have my own kind of people have a lot of goals, travel goals, this goals, that goal, health goals, everything. So all these kind of things shape you as a person. Even if you don't have any professional goals or something, at least have some personal goals, because that will show that you as a person with some drive, instead of somebody who's just sitting there and doing nothing and waiting for things to happen. Okay, coming to the next point, personality. So why is personality in this slide? Simple. So everybody has this kind of personality right from their childhood, which is themselves, but which is never exposed to the world at all, because in front of parents, they're different. In front of classmates, they're different. In front of teachers, they're different. In front of people who are colleagues, they're different. And this kind of discrepancy in the personality or something like that eventually gets to them and they forget who they are. So how do you find yourself if you don't know who you are? You have no time alone or anything. It is very important for a person to at least spend like 3 days without any kind of social interaction to like, find out who they are themselves. And you might be interested, it might actually have like show you some interesting parts of your personality, which might be really good for your professional career as well. Because, constantly being with people, constantly being in situations where you're under control of somebody or something, you don't know who you are. And why is this important? Because you cannot act for a long time. Actors or anybody like that, even professional actors or something, they get tired of being somebody else and they need a break. A person who is like, who is like very shy or something like that might be playing a person who is like very outgoing and social. That will drain him emotionally and physically. So he needs a break. So if you're planning to act like you're some other personality or something like that, it's going to be very, very draining for you. So you need to find out who you are. And it is quite impossible to be yourself in front of everybody. In society and corporate situations, you need to have a little bit of a mask to show that, okay, you're a professional and you are like, not doing all these, you're not being casual or like, funny or like that. And about the whole humor thing, humor is a really good way to actually do a lot of things, even in the corporate, make conversations, this, that, everything. But humor in general, it can be insulting or degrading to one person or the other. In general, both should be avoided. You should never degrade yourself with your humor, or you should never degrade other people with your humor as far as corporate is concerned. Any other kind of humor is fine. But degrading kind of humor is generally very, very bad. So you have to figure out all these kind of things about your personality and fixate on one personality. I'm going to be this person. Okay, fine. This will be a good thing for me and growth, and follow that equally everywhere. Because when you follow one personality, which is accepted by everybody and yourself as well, you're comfortable being that person, and other people are comfortable being with that person, and that is quite possible with some experience and training. And once you figure out that, it shows in your person. I mean, it shows like when you talk to people or something, you're confident, you're being yourself. Being somebody else is always like a really bad thing to do. Nobody wants to, like, act forever. So being comfortable in yourself and making other people comfortable in yourself, that could make you like go so much places in corporate world. And language. So a lot of people, if you're coming from any kind of world other than England, English is not your native language. And some other language or some other dialect of English, might be your native thing. But if you notice in professional context, there is business English, formal English, and communication English, and there are like so many varieties of English invented for different purposes. And for this, you have to follow formal English. You should never follow casual English, which you follow with your friends and all these people. So how do I know formal English and casual English? Just go and watch videos on YouTube. Simple as that. Go watch business people talk and the way they communicate or something, and learn from them. Imitate them, and then learn from them. So it is very important to, like, talk in English as much as possible, so you're comfortable. You can't, the first time you're talking to the interview or something, it should not be the first time you're talking in English. If you're talking some language like Hindi or some other language on a regular basis, and suddenly you have to go and talk in English, you're going to stammer. You don't have that kind of fluency. So that is going to be really bad for you. So you should practice the language which is professionally used as much as possible before you go into an interview. Okay. And small talk. So small talk is something did you get stuck in traffic? All these kind of things are used to, like, start a conversation. And the reason I'm talking about this is, like, whenever you want to talk to a person and they actually ask you about, like, talk certain things or something, you need to have some kind of thing to talk about. If you are completely empty, let's just say you like some kind of specific interest, like Game of Thrones, I like Avengers or something, everybody is not going to know that for you to sit and talk for hours and hours and hours. So you should know some general things that everybody is familiar with. Like, for example, if you're from India, you should know some kind of things which is going on a regular basis here, some current affairs. You don't have to sit and read newspapers. You just need to read the headlines or something like that. So all these things are like going to take like 5 minutes, 10 minutes of your day, but knowing what's going on around the world or something like that helps you communicate with the person, get that thing started. Like, oh, did you see the weather today, or did you see this today, like, or something like that. Once this conversation starts going, you can easily now build up on that. You need to have certain topics for small talk, and you shouldn't extend small talk to a lot of things. You Once you're like, hey, how are you doing, like, hope you're going good and this and that, then you get to the point. If you directly get to the point, people find it intimidating and they're not comfortable coming to the point directly. That's why small talk was invented in the first place. You have to, like, say something like, hey, how's it going, it's been a long time. Or if you're talking in a formal sense or something like that, you should say stuff like, good morning, sir, or anything like that. And how's your day going, or like this, that. Who encourage straightforward behavior, who they consider you bold or something, but everybody else is going to think that you're invading their privacy or just jumping in without, with the courtesy or anything like that. So it's best to make small talk first before you get to the point. Okay, grooming. A lot of people ignore this, and I'm sorry to say most of them are men, and that is why there's like socially self-conscious, like what other people are doing, and men do not. And that is why I'm emphasizing on this part. You really need to be showing that you are a professional in every way possible. And that is from a neatly have haircut, clean shaved face, and a formal dress which is suited to that exact post you're applying, and the correct body posture. When you're making for clothes or something, always try to get clothes which are stitched for your size. If you buy for formals or any kind of thing which is actually like ready-made or something like that, it is going to like not fit you properly, because everybody has a different kind of body, and that is going to make you uncomfortable in the formal dress, which is going to show you and is going to ruin the entire thing. So you should take some time and effort in your thing to actually have some formals and kind of thing stitched. And getting a clean haircut is not that easy. A lot of people go to the hair salon or something like that, they don't actually do anything at all. They just go and say like, hey, cut my hair, short, medium, big, whatever. But you should be a little bit more mindful. Find out certain haircuts which are like, look professional and neat. And you always have to be combed. Even if you want to have long hair or something, it should always be like, neat, sharp, and combed. It should not look any sloppy or ugly or something. There's a lot of people who ask me like, I like to have long hair. Why can I do that? I've seen so many professionals with long hair. If you're going to have long hair, it is going to have more effort on your part to take care and make sure that it looks good. So most people do not prefer long hair because it takes a lot of time to maintain, and it has to keep it proper. It takes a lot of effort. So a short haircut is preferred by them. So if you want to take that extra effort, you can. And as far as the girls are concerned, I don't really have to say much. You just have to neatly tie up your hair. Never have loose hair at all. And in terms of corporate or something, loose hair is something which I commonly see in girls, and that is not seen as professional at all. Always have to be tied up. Don't tie it up too hard. It might cause you headaches. Just tie it up in a normal way. Okay. And this is company specific. So when you're going to a job interview or something, you are going to a specific company which has a specific culture and specific history. So research is important. First is grooming, dressing appropriate, and everything like that. So research about the company itself is important. Like let's just say you're applying for Scholar IT Solutions. You should research about the company, what they're doing, their employee, the work culture, the news, the blog, and you should go and find out as much as about the company as possible. If you're a person who's going for a technology interview, you should know what kind of technologies they're using. Different companies use different technologies, and some might use like this and some might use that. Like Facebook use React and Google use Angular, so something like that. So you need to find as much as about the company as possible before you go to that interview. This is also very good because sometimes they ask you a question, why did you choose our company? And that time you need to have an answer. And if you research about the company, you can start talking about the history and how like these people. One second. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so you need to be ready for all the questions. And this is a very important question. If you know a lot about the company, then it shows that you prepared for this role, you prepared for this company, and it shows a lot of character. A person who's it shows that you're serious, because only a serious person would go and research about the company, the history and everything like that before going into an interview. A person who's not serious would never do that. He will just go and sit there. And that you should have a checklist of things which is favored by the company. Let's just say they favor people who are more from this kind of background, like technology background. Then you should you should fine tune your technology side. And if they're more of a business kind of company or something, then you should fine tune your business side. When you present or when you talk to them, You should talk to them in a way that they'll like it. And all the companies have their own culture, their own rules, everything. And one of the most important things about you, that you should really do that, is you have to have some kind of salary expectations. And this again goes back to research. You have to research. There's a lot of websites on the internet like Glassdoor, and even in LinkedIn you might get some salary insights. And you should know that what kind of how much does an Android developer or a HTML developer or a full stack developer, how much do they earn at this time? How much? And you should never ask too much or too less. If you're asking too less, that means you're showing that you're not confident in your skills or you are lower quality. If you're asking too much, it means that you're being unreasonable. So you should have this kind of salary expectations, and you should never have low salary expectations. You should know your own skills and you should be confident in them. So only then you can ask for a salary, saying you can ask them hey, I'm good, I've done this, I can do this, I'll be a valuable person to a company. Only then they'll be fine giving you that salary, because they don't want to sit and deal with a person who doesn't have confidence or skills. Yeah, like I said, the most common question in any kind of interview situation is, tell me about yourself. And this is one question you should be prepared no matter what. And like I told earlier in self-awareness section, nobody knows about themselves at all. Only the other people know about them. The other people who notice what they do know about them. So first you have to find out what you are. So tell me about yourself. What is good for you? What is bad for you? You should know your own strengths and weaknesses. I'm good at talking. I'm good at writing. I'm good at programming. I'm good at drawing. You should know everything, and you should highlight some certain skills, that you're a team player and you can handle stress. And a lot of people, they have this kind of interview thing. They find they're a company which tight deadlines, and the deadlines have to be met, and they want people who know who are good at handling stress. They will not ask you directly that can you handle the stress or something like that, because most people will lie. They'll be like, I can handle stress, but in real they can't. So what they'll actually do is they'll have interview of 10 minutes instead of 5. Sometimes if they see that the candidate is qualified but they want to stress test them, they'll sit and even take interviews for 30 minutes to see if that person can handle 30 minutes of stress. So you should be ready for that as well. It doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes they do it. Let's just say they find you a really skilled person, so they'll do a stress test before they confirm. I've heard of stress tests even go for 45 minutes, because there was one person who was stress tested for 45 minutes and then finally he got the job. So yeah, unless and until a person asks you what your weakness is, you should never ever tell your weakness. You should always be confident and open about saying your strengths, what you're good at, what kind of skills you're really efficient at doing, but never ever tell your weakness unless they ask you. And almost nobody asks that question in my experience or something. Very few people actually ask that. But unless they ask or something, never tell what's your weakness. Motivation, that is something which, like I told you, the entire session, if you notice all the small parts or something, they come into this one point. The interview person is going to ask you a lot of questions, and they're never going to ask about the things you think. They'll ask you all these kind of questions. What motivates you? And earlier on I told you, you need to have some kind of motivation and goal in life. Why? Because they're going to ask you that, and you should be able to quickly answer that. That was a friend of mine, and okay, there was actually two friends of mine, and one of them was actually interested in working in the airlines, and the other person didn't actually have anything else, so he said I am also interested in airlines. He didn't do any research, he didn't do any I explained before, it comes to this point where they ask you a question. Describe your work style. I already explained that in the past. They'll ask you how you work. So you need to have a work ethic first. You need to have a style of working first for you to actually explain that. If you don't know about yourself, if you don't know your work style, if you don't know what motivates you, if you don't know what you're passionate about, you will never be able to answer a single question they ask you. So you should know a lot of these things and prepare all of these things in before, and you can rehearse. You can rehearse them using a mirror. Like a lot, the best actors or the best people are the best kind of people who work. Everybody sits and talks in front of a mirror to notice their mistakes and something. And these days, we have more kind of thing. Instead of talking, analyzing yourself over the mirror is a little bit hard because you're actually doing something and also looking at yourself. There's any other way that you could use your phone to take a video about yourself and then sit and analyze it later, or give it to some people and find out like what kind of things you're doing wrong or what kind of things you're not doing properly or something. Other people are good at noticing your flaws than yourself because it's a psychology thing. You feel that you're a perfect person with no flaws at all, but other people don't feel like that. So they'll tell you more about what you're doing wrong, what you're repeating yourself again, what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. All this kind of work will always be good before getting a job, after getting a job, and in every way possible. Yes and no. Two are the most powerful words I know. You should be able to say yes and no on the right situations. Anytime somebody puts you in a situation where it's impossible for you to do something, you should be able to say no. And saying yes is very easy, actually. You could say yes to everything. But doing it is a different thing. So if you're able to do something, if you're able to deliver on your promise, say yes. If you're not able to deliver, or if you don't have the time to do something, or if you can't do it, then say no. But when you say no, you have to be careful not to offend the person, because you shouldn't come out as like, rejecting that person itself. You should say it in a way that when you're saying no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. That would be too much from my part. Or I'm sorry, that's not possible. And that would be practically impossible for me to do it. You should say it in a nice way, and you have to apologize first. Anytime you're saying no or something, apologize before you start with your explanation. You apologize and give one line of explanation. Never tell stories. If you're telling stories and stories of like, I have the, like that, something like that, they know you're making up a story as an excuse. Instead, apologize and quickly say that, yes, I'm sorry, I won't be able to do that. It would be beyond my ability to do that, or anything like that. So why am I saying this? Let's just say that you're attending an interview in Delhi and they're saying like, can you go to Chennai? If you really can go, and like, let's just say in Delhi, the languages are English and Hindi, and in Chennai, the languages are Tamil and English. English is a common thing, but let's just say you go to a place where it's full of Tamils, you will never be able to get along with them. And this is why you should always say like no. When you think that you can't do it or something, you should be able to say no. You should never say an yes for that and then go and struggle. Because if you say yes now just to get the job or do something else, and then you're going to go and suffer like so much, eventually if you are performing poor and your appraisals are not good, they're going to chase you away, and that's a very bad way to come out of things. Instead, you should know like whether you can do it or not. Knowing your own strengths and capabilities is very important, whether you can do something or not. Only then you can answer these questions. And that comes to the end of the session. Good communication skills are the key to success, and I would be like assuring that in almost anything. And these communication skills are not going to be just useful for you in career wise or something, in personal life, friendships, and any kind of place, anywhere. Politeness, communication skills, effectively communicating what you want to say to people, everything like that, it goes a long way. And learning this skill is essential, not just in this part, in every aspect of your life. So give a lot of time and effort into learning these skills. And now that comes to the final part. We have some questions, like 5-10 minutes. If anybody asks any kind of questions, I will be taking them. And these slides and everything like that, I have in a PDF file, and I will link that to you right now. If you want, you can download them for reference, and please fill out the forms given by the people in the chat to review the whole session and everything. And if you have any questions, you can ask me right now. I'll be like on for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, depending on the number of questions. So yes, you can mute yourself. Yeah, you can mute yourself, unmute yourself and ask, or you can ask in the text like Bharat here. Okay, how to handle office politics? Every time they're showing partiality. Yeah, so the thing is, there is always this kind of things. Politics is everywhere. Drama is everywhere. You need to handle them, and you should find out why they're showing partiality towards you. And more often, it is best not to go and pick a fight with somebody who is being partial, because they're not going to change. And the more you fight them, the more they're going to target you or something. Never ever fight. People are when you do something to fight office politics or anything like that, you need to understand the politics first. The reason is, like, every office there's a different kind of politics. They're favoring different people. Let's just say there are in some place they're favoring people who are talking in Hindi, and some place they're favoring people who look good, or some place they're favoring a person who is of the same caste as them, or the same area as them or something. You need to find out what they are favoring it for. Thank you, April. Thank you so much. And yeah, you need to find out what they're favoring for, and then find out a way to handle them. Because I can't really tell in detail on how to handle that situation, because it gets into a lot of specifics and it becomes a whole session. So you need to find out the root cause of why they're being partial or doing that, and then find out how to handle it. Okay, any more questions? You can type it in the chat. Yes, and in case you have questions later on or something, the PDF which I sent also has the link to my LinkedIn. You can come and ask me in LinkedIn. I'll be really happy to answer any kind of questions and mentor people. Thank you, Akshay. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Any more questions? Okay, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to end the session then. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I'll be always happy to help. Okay. Thank you for everybody for attending the webinar. Please fill in the forms. And thank you again.